It's Dave Johal once again for Punch Out Boxing. Pleased to be joined by a person who's been on many times before, Asgar Tair, live from Alton Towers. How are you, Asgi?
Living the dream. I'm at Alton Towers on a Monday morning. Can't complain.
Yeah, make sure you ride the Nemesis as well if it's still around. Um,
Oh no, no, I'm too big for them things.
well, what a week already. News going straight into it. News that Dillian White has had adverse findings from a VADA test. The fight with AJ has been cancelled. AJ is at this moment yet without an opponent. That could all change in 24 hours. That could all change by Saturday if someone is in standby. But what a crazy sport. You can't write this stuff, can you, Aski? What were your thoughts on this?
Shocked, but not no shocked because listening to Julian White's response, like he generally sounded like what the heck's going on. Um, Disappointed for the fans because a lot of them have spent a lot of money. It was a great build up. It was great to see AJ, get a fight before he fights John Wilder. But then again, a lot of questions come to mind. You know, how did Chisora know about this failed drug test way before anybody? David Hayes spoke the other day saying he spoke to Chisora saying that he's preparing for a fight against AJ. Now, these things don't coincidentally happen. Then at the same time, you're listening to not John Wilder, Julian White, who was completely unaware. Because surely you or whoever did the drug test would have told him first. But he seems to be like the last person to know what's going on. Now, I'm not saying he's guilty. I know it looks bad with 3 times or whatever. But if it was bad in the first time or bad in the second time, why did they allow him to come back? So it couldn't have been that bad. And if it was bad, then why did you let him come back? So all that, really like egg in UCAD's face because it's showing their credibility. But I'm a strong believer on this third occasion, he should be able to defend himself because he was able to defend himself on the first and second time. Now look at the Conor Ben situation because I'm sure he's not being cleared, but he's being cleared to box. But shouldn't that be the case with Dillian White? And it would have been a great fight because Dillian White and AJ have got that personal hate. Now they call it 1-1 because AJ lost in the amateurs,
Yep.
then beat him in the pros. And I thought it would have been a great trilogy. But or maybe it was a high risk fight and some sinister play somewhere because he was lined up to fight Deontay Wilder. He was offered money to not fight Deontay Wilder. He was offered money not to fight Dillian White. So maybe there's some play along with, I'm not saying it is, but there's a lot of pressure from Matchroom because you can see the zone obviously feeling sorry for him, but still working because the zone train won't stop. They'll work with other people as they are with Westerman and other outlets or sporting outlets. I can't see him working with Queensbury because they work with BT Sports
Yep.
or TNT, whatever they call
Yeah.
them. So it's all a bit in the air, isn't it? But I like to think a man's innocent until proven guilty. I like William White. I think he's got so much to offer boxing. And with the replacements, what everyone's talking about Chisora. Now, where does that take us? Chisora, would that be a good fight? We know AJ's going to beat him. I would prefer someone like Otto Wallin. Um, Hergovich, is a serious threat. I can't see them taking Hergovich, even though he's on the undercard, isn't he?
No, so with Herg, yeah, so with Hergovich, at very short notice, I'd be very surprised that AJ and Hergovich could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Chisora versus Joshua happens purely because of David Hayes' comments. But secondly, as well, looking at this from AJ's perspective, from Eddie Hearn's perspective, they've been thrown a massive curveball. So if it was to be Hergovich, if it was to be Otto Wallin, if it was going to be Chisora on Saturday night, you can't really blame them, can you, Asgi, considering the circumstances?
I'm talking for the fans. The fans want excitement. Look, Anthony Joshua actually manages Chisora, doesn't he? With
He does 258 management, yeah.
exactly, so that's a bit confusing. Um, I think someone like Otto Wallin would have been good. Michael Hunter would have been great. They've got to give the fans something because AJ himself's better than that. He will want that challenge. There's no way you want to fight someone like Chisora knowing that you can beat him. Remember, you're going against the hardest puncher in the world, Deontay Wilder. So you want a challenge. You rather get it now than later.
What's that? Sorry.
I says you want the challenge now. You don't want an easy fight. That's not going to mean anything.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And this fight, when we spoke to Eddie Hearn a few weeks ago, the deal with the Deontay Wilder fight rested on this fight as to who was going to win. Because if AJ didn't win this fight, hypothetically, then that would make the Wilder fight in Saudi Arabia in jeopardy. So that would leave the fight in the Middle East in complete jeopardy if he lost. So I think Saturdays, you're absolutely right. The opponent is going to make a massive difference because how can you then sell a Wilder fight? But just wanted your opinion on one more thing as well in terms of VADA and testing. Um, Fans always call out for referees to address, judges to address their judging on certain fights when it's controversial. Do you think VADA also and UKAD should explain to fans what adverse findings actually mean? So, for example, when Amir Khan was posthumously banned after the fight with Kell Brook, he was caught with I think 0.001% of a substance. Again, I'm not a scientist, but again, from a journalistic point of view, it would be interesting to know what kind of damage that would cause, if anything. How are there degrees of what banned substances can do because we're dealing with people's lives in the ring, aren't we? Do you think VADA and UKAD should explain a bit more as to what adverse findings are? Because like you, I think guilty until proven innocent. We need to know more about the facts because all it says at the minute is adverse findings.
I think we should have more of a independent kind of inquiry, independent kind of body. Whereas you have the British Box Border Control, I think they should create their own UKAD kind of style of drug testing. Because sometimes UKAD are restricted in their jurisdictions. Do you see where I'm coming from? But yeah. I should go by, you're licensed by the British Border Boxer Control, and you should be tested by the British Boxer Border Control. And that way, if a boxer is licensed under them and they're in, say, well, Dillian White's case in Portugal, then they should be able to go to Portugal and test them there. But if you look back at Dillian White's statement, he invited UKAD. Yes. He recommended the testing. So how the hell does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a really bizarre one because let's be honest, VADA stands for Voluntary Anti-Doping Agency, doesn't it? Voluntary as in you volunteered to do this.
Exactly. And he made it clear that he wanted that. Now, something definitely isn't right somewhere. Now, I think it's maybe the high risk situation. How are they going to break out that contract? I'm not saying any foul play, not at all. But it doesn't make sense. The whole thing contradicts itself. And I really do feel sorry for Julian White, as I do feel sorry for Conor Ben. Because if he is innocent, his reputation was tarnished. And he will always be labelled a cheat or so, whatever.
Is it easy?
And I think that people should be.
Sorry, I was gonna ask you. I mean, in terms of because you train a lot of fighters, you've been obviously with Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, Ben Davison. Is it trying to put this into a layman's perspective? But how crucial is it? So when you exercise, when you go for a run, you go pick up a protein shake from the shelf. Could it be as dangerous as that, getting caught with something in terms of what's in your blood? How risky is this? Again, being a general member of the public and just a journalist, when it comes to the actual chemicals of what's in certain substances, could it be as easy as that, getting caught?
So you broke up there, Dave, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying. So basically, you're saying that maybe it's contamination or maybe it's something
yeah, so basically, is it as easy as you go for a run or you have a workout, you grab something off the shelf, like a protein shake or something, the chemicals inside it, could that cause...
No. We're told by the British Board what to avoid. If you're in doubt, check it out. We have a website. We have a list of things that we can check.
Sure.
Type in the code and it'll tell us if it's good or bad. Now, for argument's sake, you've taken something, and but you've tested it, it's come back positive. You can justify where it's come from. It has to be like a trace. See, this is why you employ professionals, nutritionists that knows what they're doing, because everybody's accountable. But the ball always lies in the boxer's hand because they're the ones going to get blamed, not the manager, not the trainer, not the nutritionist, but the boxer. So that's why you've got to be very careful and keep your circle so tight and so unique because you can't afford this in this game. You may be tempted to say, right, I will try that product on the list. See, they've got to have this like a yellow symbol that tells you it's safe, it's approved by certain bodies. And you've got to be careful because most people are taking supplements, advanced supplements. But you've got to make sure they're not illegal.
Yeah, because one false move, not one false move. We're playing with people's lives as well, aren't we? Because injuries could be life-threatening in the ring.
Yeah, no,
sports.
so for me, no sympathy. There should be criminal charges because you're actually hurting and damaging people with bad intentions. It's a sport. That's the first thing. And the whole concept of boxing is to hit and not get hit. And you want any boxer to walk away with his faculties intact. You don't want anyone to walk away with serious harm. You're an ill person if you do that. You shouldn't be in boxing. But I always say, but everyone should be given the benefit of doubt, given that chance to prove themselves. But then that also comes with the pressure of high-profile promotions. A lot of people want to perform. A lot of people are getting through the radar. A lot of boxers have got people inside that make things happen. Does that make sense? So maybe the opposition must feel, oh, maybe I'm under that pressure. But then again, listen, there's no justification for taking any substance at all. No justification.
Yeah, because, and on the other side, we're seeing so many knee-jerk reactions coming in over the weekend saying, things like ban Dillian White. But honestly speaking, we need more information, don't we, at the minute? Because all it says is adverse findings. We need to know what it was, the trace, what damage that could cause. We need to know more information.
No. If there is a substance in your body, whether it's 0.0 something, that's not even going to make a relevant effect to your body. So for example, I'm your con situation. For me, whether there's that trace, we don't know if they're taking a masking product or whatever, or they've come to the end of their course of taking whatever. Now, they should be suspended, or they should be given an explanation before it's even announced. They should be able to justify themselves until the evidence is concrete. Once the evidence is concrete, then make an action, then suspend them, or then cancel, or then fine, or whatever they want to do. But until the facts are there, it don't make sense. And I'm still a A side and B sample, A sample and B sample. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And I think, personally speaking,
And on recent occasions, the B sample seems to be disappearing.
Yeah, we've had that a few times. I think in light of what's happened, though, I do agree with one thing, that the fight has been cancelled in terms of the bad press, the negativity. And if we were to go back a year ago when this was, well, it's just over a year, isn't it? Or we're approaching, when it was Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom got a lot of.
I also go back. There's loads of questions in the air. For example, then why allow the Conor Benn situation to be scrapped? Or, that situation, you can't do one thing for one and not for the other. But at the same time, I do like the way Eddie Hearn sticks up for his boxers. He's the first person to defend his boxers, which is and that's how it should be. He wants to hear the evidence and facts, then he'll act. But on this occasion, they've automatically, bam, the fight's off. So there must be something more to it that we don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, that's another way of looking at it as well. This week's going to be really crucial because, look, the fight's on Saturday. The opponent, do you see a replacement for Dillian White on Saturday? Do you think this fight's going to be completely called off and the show is going to go ahead. Do you think the show can go ahead with Johnny Fisher? And
Absolutely. I think Johnny Fisher is definitely a great draw. I think he's definitely one for the future. I think he's brilliant. I watched him the other day. I think that young man is just getting better and better. His jabs are phenomenal. He's a great guy. Johnny Fisher, I'm a massive fan of Johnny Fisher because he's such a lovely guy and can box and he's learning. And I've seen him with Mark Tibb the other day, and his his learning is just evident. He's just going to get so much better. In 2 years' time, that guy's a problem for everyone.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting if the fight actually sort of goes ahead, I suppose, as well, with what's happened and with going back to the Dillian White situation. Do you think, regardless of what's happened, do you think this could be this could be it now if he does get suspended and banned? Looking at it from the other side, do you think
Yeah,
this is the end now?
yeah, it's such a shame because Julian White's done so much for British boxing. He's been a great guy, entertaining guy, and I'm sure he also manages a lot of boxers. And it's not fair for someone who can't defend himself to have to suffer this. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but I still think, away from all that, he's a great guy. I'm a massive Julian White fan. I think he's good for boxing. I just hope it's not true. I generally hope it's not true.
Yeah,
Because if it is true, then there's no safety.
yeah, and I'm like you on this one as well. I'm not casting any judgment until more information is actually given, considering loads of people with knee-jerk reactions at the moment. Just one final one from me in terms of a thought. Look at the highs we had last week when it was Terence Crawford nullifying Errol Spence Jr., Inouye, and the fabulous performance he had with Steph Fulton, and then we've got the news on Saturday morning regarding the AJ versus Dillian White situation. It's our sport, isn't it? It's ups and downs. This kind of brings it all to, it shows what kind of a roller coaster boxing is, isn't it, Aski?
And it's going to always happen unless something's actually done. And UK needs to pull up the socks. And I think British sports, we should take more control of this, the whole situation. Because sometimes they're restricted with this independent anti-doping bodies, whereas certain loopholes always get certain people out. Whereas the British Boxing Board need to write, you know what, enough's enough. If you're licensed with us, you can fight in the shows. If you're not licensed with us, you can't fight in the shows. Everyone should be licensed under the British Boxing Board of Control. Not where you fail and you get a foreign license. Forget that. It's got to be regulated more. It's got to be licensed through the British Boxing Board of Control. And I think everyone should be given that chance to defend themselves. And before it's announced publicly, I think it's a case of do the inquiries, do the interviews, present the facts, and then make your final decision. And that's it.
No, well said. I said very finely, but I forgot there's another big fight happening as well with Tyson Fury taking on UFC. I mean, I don't watch UFC or MMA, but I know that I've heard that this guy can hit, he can destabilize, and he's here to cause some damage, isn't he? What do you think of the fight? Do you think it should be pay-per-view? Are you going to be watching as well? Are you a UFC fan, or are you just like me, which is just pure boxing?
I don't think I'll be watching it, to be fair. It's not something that appeals to me. It definitely appeals to my son. He's definitely watching that. The only reason I probably would watch it if would be because of Tyson, not because of Ngannou. But it is an interesting fight because you've got the hardest puncher in UFC, undefeated heavyweight king versus the undefeated heavyweight boxing king. So it's a great freak show. And why not? Tyson making 40 million and Ghana is making his highest ever income of 9 million. Fair play to them both. And it will definitely, listen, it will definitely attract serious numbers because that's what's selling. Look at the Jake Paul situation. They're doing high volumes. So why not? Why not play the game? But again, it's not a boxing fight, is it? It's a freak show, but an entertaining freak show.
I mean, let's be honest. Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor opened up that door many years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? I mean, the
Well, well, let's go before that when Muhammad Ali fought
yes,
the wrestling champion.
yeah, the Japanese wrestler was it? I forgot his name now. Many years ago. Um,
And then there was Leon, was it Leon Spinks or Michael Spinks? One of them became a world wrestling champion.
I did not know that. Did not know that.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty strange. And then Ricky Hatton went into it. Floyd Mayweather went into it. Then we've got the Conor McGregor situation. And since then, because remember, it's a business and the television see the high volume of pay-per-view sales. It's a market that's not that everyone needs to jump into because it's a business. So we need to distinguish between entertainment and real boxing. And again, it's all about the regulators. They're allowing it to happen. So why not?
There you go. Asgi, I will catch up with you soon. Thank you for your thoughts on this weekend. Hopefully the fight still continues with somebody. I mean, it'd be good to see AJ out again, and we will catch up with you soon.
Take care, Dave. Thanks for having me on, my man.